Hi there, and welcome to Powerful Spiritual and Feminine Leadership. Create an abundant life and business by being yourself and doing what you love. My name's Lisa Fitzpatrick, and today I'm just beyond excited to be in discussion with the beautiful Beáta Alfoldi. Hi, Beáta.
Hi, Lisa. I'm so thrilled to be here as well. And as you know, as we've discussed before, I am so supportive and with you and beside you and beside all of us wonderful women who are really stepping into their creative and most magnificent and radiant light. That's what I'm all about
That's
as
powerful,
well.
and I always get that sense when I'm in your presence that you're seeing that potential in everyone that you meet. So Beata's bio is very impressive. She is considered to be a leader in the field of shamanism, healing, personal development, spirituality, women's empowerment, and leadership. And I just knew you had to be on this summit, Beata, because of your, not only just because of your credentials, but because of my own embodied experience of your presence and the power of your work. Beáta is a noted shamanic practitioner and healer, workshop facilitator, ceremonial leader, and speaker. She has had the privilege of traveling and living extensively in many different parts of the world, studying with indigenous elders and teachers from various spiritual and shamanic traditions. And you have a successful healing centre in Sydney, facilitating private sessions, mentorship programs, workshops and retreats, which are held worldwide in beautiful locations. I've always wanted to do a retreat with you. She is passionate about inspiring individuals to find the courage to live a life that is authentic, empowered, free, and radiantly alive. And as I said, having an embodied experience of your work in ceremony, Beáta, was something that to me was a visceral remembering of why I was here to do this work of feminine empowerment myself. So I'd love for us to enter into a juicy discussion about that. But one thing you say on your website, which really struck me as well, is this idea that it takes so much courage for us to find the gifts in the dark journeys, and that when we do, we can rewrite stories of pain and trauma and turn them into our own liberation and freedom from suffering. So tell us a bit about that. It fascinates me that so many women hide out because of their traumas. Yeah.
Yes, and look, I certainly did when I was younger as well. I think, I mean, we might as well just go straight into it because, this is a perfect segue. I feel like, as I shared with people, I'm a very sanguine individual and by nature I'm always excited about life. And as soon as I wake up, I'm out there and I'm going for it. But and of course I've had so many life experiences prior to the one I'm about to share with you that were very upsetting, but nothing was deep enough to really bring me to that space of being on my knees, as it were. And it'll be 7 years ago in August. A lot of people that do know me and work with me know this. My son passed away full term in the process of a 3-day labor. And so I found out halfway through that process that he had actually passed away. And I remember, firstly, I remember thinking, how can this happen to me? I'm a good person. And there's a part of me that's a little bit ashamed to admit that, because it's such a Western thing that we think because we're good people that we're not somehow going to be touched by the things that life touches everybody with. I mean, 6 women a day experience stillbirth here in Australia. So it's not that it's such a unique story, but I just never expected it to be my story.
Yeah.
And I remember, oh gosh, I don't think I went outside much for a year. I remember, 2 weeks after that experience, I found out that my mother was terminally ill. I realized that my husband and I weren't going to make it at the time. And my whole world just seemed to start imploding. Finances, where I was living, everything that I identified myself with just fell away. And I was left in probably the most raw, the most deeply painful experience of my life where I really couldn't go outside of myself. So I'm sharing this because, you know, people always go, oh, well, it's easy for you to say that you've claimed the gifts and now you're here. It wasn't easy at all. But what I will say, that it was such a potent and such a deep experience that it forced me to actually go right into the center of that pain and to actually start to discover, well, who am I when there is nothing that I can identify myself with anymore? Who am I where I'm stripped to the core, where I'm on my knees and my heart is continuously breaking open? And what I found out was all of the things that I was not. And that became so powerful for me because that story of losing my son, as in losing his physical body, has now become what I would call the greatest initiation of my life, because it took this beautiful soul, this beautiful being who is still with me so strongly to this day and will continue to be, to actually wake me up to my own potential and allow me to see my own beauty and my path forward and what was my offering here in life. If I had to lose, and I, you know, I understand that I also wrote this contract, if I had to lose my son in this way, then obviously there was a greater purpose for this experience. So it really forced me to look so deeply within and not hide from that pain and continuously, where I thought that abyss would stop, it was like the abyss was endless. And I used to be afraid of that abyss, but now I can enter that in those moments where I do go into that grief again, because of course it's an ongoing healing process. But rather than drowning in that grief, I actually know how to navigate that space. And that's such an incredibly potent gift, because I'm not afraid of those dark journeys anymore, because I know the potency and I know the beauty and just the magic that's held in that space. And that's only because I had the courage to go in there. If I hadn't gone into that journey and so deeply and, you know, with humility, with such courage, I don't think I'd be doing the work that I am now, and certainly not living the life that I am now, because literally I've transformed every area of my life. I live my life. I look at these beautiful opportunities that are being presented to me now, and it's almost like, oh my gosh, you know, it's not that it's the rewards of my work, but it's the rewards of me being true to myself and true to what that experience initiated in me and awoke in me. And I'm so very grateful. Hands on my heart, I'm so very grateful. And I have to say that Alakai works with me to this day, and we have such a strong relationship and such a beautiful relationship that I can't even explain in human terms. You know, it's just, you know, I feel quite emotional just thinking about it.
Same. I feel so moved to also that really appreciate the level of courage that it takes to sit with that void and that pain, and that so many humans are avoiding the pain and distracting themselves in drugs, alcohol, television, sex, shopping, whatever you might call it. But yet when we sit with that, what I'm sensing is how much of a trustworthy guide you make, because you can hold anyone in their darkness because you've been brave enough to face your own.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I love what you just shared there. And let me just offer this as well. What I loved is, you know, there is also the fact that the dark journeys become the guide.
Right.
They become the trustworthy guide to your own liberation.
Interesting.
You know, if we learn how to navigate these journeys well, which, you know, as we are not taught that in our society. We're not brought up with ceremony, with ritual, with these types of rites of passage that our indigenous brothers and sisters are. Yeah. So, you know, I love that offering, and I just needed to offer that. It was actually the journey that informed me and liberated me. and became my trustworthy guide.
That's fascinating too. And this idea, again, of something you elicited in your process of ceremony in me, which was an embodied remembering of why I was here, that your work, tell me a bit about the importance of ceremony, ritual, and initiation in this whole experience of awakening to our potential as women, especially.
Yes, well, I love what you're saying and sharing with our audience today. It is such a remembering for all of us, and in Europe and in all of the countries that all of us find ourselves in, we all had ceremony. We all grew up with ritual. Our ancestors, our forefathers, our foremothers, this was a way of life for us, of honoring the seasons, of honoring the cycles with the moon, of honoring our cycles from being a child to then becoming an adult, and for our brothers, for the men as well. For me personally, I see ceremony as an amazing opportunity for us to connect our world with the world of the spiritual in a very, very tangible way, so that we actually become that container of the sacred as we perform, as we invoke, as we invite that sense of the sacred in. We get to, as you shared, which is such a beautiful feminine word, we get to actually experience and embody what does it mean to be that sacred vessel for the divine. We actually, in the work that I facilitate, that's certainly my intention. And intention is such a strong part and aspect of that ceremony, where we all invite, and in that moment of full presence, invite the sense of the sacred in, and what we are wanting to not only release, but also transform and birth within ourselves and transmute. And then this ceremonial process becomes, what are we then going to offer from this new space of remembering and reclaiming ourselves? What can we then offer into our lives and into the lives of those that we love, and then into the greater world? So for me, ceremony is always a remembering of ourselves and what it is to actually live in connection with the natural world, in full harmony with each other and with all of our faculties, fully awakened and fully alive and active in that moment, so it becomes that potent container, the potent alchemical container of magic and transformation.
That's phenomenal. And do you think in this process of being initiated into the work of healing and reaching our potential as women and as human beings, that it needs to be so deeply painful? Because some of these rites of passage are very painful for women to walk through. It's like we walk through fire. We walk on hot coals to get where we want to be. What's your take on that? I'm from a generation that was taught to believe that it is actually a painful experience, awakening, but I hear some of the newer generation saying that the pain is not necessary. I'd love to hear your perspective on this one.
Ooh, this is a big one, isn't it? I'm in my late 40s, coming into my 50s in a couple of years, Lisa. So, I can't speak for how the younger sisters are feeling. I think I understand their concept that it doesn't have to be a painful process. I don't think anything has to be anything. However, I do feel, and it's certainly my own experience, that these rites of passage tend to be so deep and so profound that, yes, they don't have to be a painful experience. However, if we choose to go in and perhaps change that word, can we find a different word from pain? Can we find a different word for that, so it actually contains all of our experiences, so it doesn't become this fandangle, bells and whistles, new age thing where we're all goddesses and it's all amazing. And, we're all enlightened because we took this magic brew in the jungle and things like that. For me, for me, that's very dangerous when we go into those territories and say, oh, it doesn't have to be painful, and it, you know, it can be this and it can be that. Yes, of course it can, but what's your life experience? Show me that. Have you embodied your life experience? And then you can talk to me about whether something, when you're initiated into something, whether that's going to be painful for you or not. Then you talk to me about it, rather than talking to me about it from a textbook.
This idea of pseudo shamanism fascinates
Oh my
me because
gosh.
I live in Byron Bay, so it's always a constant discernment between that, but also that you know, from an indigenous perspective, that the elders were the ones that were the keepers of life's wisdom, not, you know, and it takes a certain amount of life experience to actually be able to offer some of the shamanic wisdom that you offer. I mean, you've done some extensive training, right?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad and grateful that you've actually brought this up, because this is what I see that is rife in the community as well, is everyone is calling themselves a shaman, and I never use that word for myself, firstly because it's so naive and it's disrespectful to the culture. You know, the word shaman actually comes from Siberia, from the Tungus tribe. You know, people that are medicine people don't even call themselves shamans, because it's specific to a specific area on our planet. And then what happened was, you know, the West actually brought it along and called every healer or curandero a shaman. And so everyone's adopted that term. I think it's very, very important to receive the correct training, and certainly to have gone through your own initiations, because I see so many people reading textbooks and doing a weekend workshop and then offering that and going, oh, well, this doesn't have to be painful, or this doesn't have to be initiated. I understand where you're coming from, but have you gone through your own rites of passage? Show me your embodiment of your awareness and understanding of those teachings, and then we can have a conversation. Otherwise, for me, it's just an intellectual process, and I'm not interested. I'm actually not interested.
That's powerful, also because of this idea that the world right now is in transition between being a very information age based you know, existence, which was very masculine and left brain and logical, to this feminine shift that we're seeing, and more women are awakening to the feminine shift being a necessary shift to restore balance. And it's partly why I wanted to hold this summit, because the women I've chosen are ones who are clearly embodying this feminine shift. Speak to me about how you see the intellectualization process transforming into a more embodied experiential understanding of our own power as women. So, you know, this, how do we get from the idea or the intellectualization of a concept to the embodied understanding of the work itself?
Great question. What I always say, you know, what I always share with people is that, you know, I have a very strong mind, and I know that, you know, I can feel and see that you do as well. And for me, I see that the intellect, it's never an enemy. The intellect is this wonderful doorway to understanding and to that embodied experience and felt sense experience of information. And I see light as information. So for me, the intellect is only a doorway. But if we stop at the doorway, then we actually, it's almost like we stunt our growth to be able to actually really feel in our bodies. Because for me, the body it contains all these wonderful portals of consciousness and activation, especially our womb space, to the infinite intelligence and wisdom. You know, for us as women especially, we have this direct portal. We are that bridge that brings in the souls from that divine space into our current world. I'll give you an example. I used to be one of these people that would read 2 or 3 books a week. When that experience happened 7 years ago, almost 7 years ago, with Alakai, with my son, I have not been able to touch a book. I have got so many books sitting next to my bed, but it's almost like every time I go to pick it up, it's like, no, you already know everything. You already know all of that wisdom. Anything else that you're going to be putting into your mind is going to be someone else's teachings and someone else's path. And if it's someone else's teachings and someone else's path, it's not our embodied truth.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, we all have this block. Oh, I'm not ready. I haven't studied enough. I haven't read enough. I see it time and time again with women, because naturally we have this innate sense of humility, actually. And because of our upbringings and because of the current world paradigm that we live in, we actually will put ourselves back, whereas men will put themselves forward and go, yes, I can do this, which is so admirable.
Yes.
So time and time again, I see with so many women, and certainly with my own journey, oh, I need to read more to do that. Oh, I need to do more. I need to study more. Well, you know, my invitation to all of us is to go, drop everything that you've ever read. It's already in there from this lifetime, from so many experiences, and come back to the wisdom of your body, because she knows. She knows all of the information. And how do we know, and how do we get to that point? I always say to people, just be fully present in every moment. Because if we have that experience, and if we choose to bring all aspects of ourselves in, to be fully present in every moment, like I am with you, like you are with me right now, then all of the information that we need becomes available to us, because we're all here. So for me, it's just that experience of being completely present and in our bodies. Yes. In every single moment. And that takes a lot of work, because a lot of people have fear. We're afraid to be in our bodies. We're afraid to be annihilated. So it does take courage, and it takes experience and lifelong lessons to be able to come into that space. Yes, we see children come back in that space, but then we unlearn everything. And then at this age, we start to come back to that wonderful childlike sense of wonder and presence. And if we navigate our journeys well, because then there's always that other aspect of people, as you know, of women our age, who become a little bit bitter. And it's so sad, because it's almost like, what have I got to live for? The best years of my life have gone. And I'm like, honey, we are in the prime, baby. We're still juicy. We're in our 40s. We're coming into our 50s. We are just beginning to actually explore our potency and the magnificence of our voices, of our collective voices, going, hey, this is not how the world is going to continue, and we're here to make a difference. We're here as a collective sisterhood to start bringing back community and healing and love and compassion, so that everyone feels that on our planet. It's not the journey that is currently happening. It's what's happening underneath that I'm really interested in. What's happening underneath the news stories, what's happening underneath all of those horrible stories, which will make us all believe that the world is horrible. Well, there's that aspect, but there is also a growing and rising movement that is palpable and exciting, and I'm so grateful to be here at this time, to be not only a part of this, but also to witness this arising in our collective consciousness.
It's so true that your work is at the leading edge of that awakening process. What I see you're doing is bridging these two worlds between our current modern, paradigm and a shift in consciousness that's coming. So being on the leading edge is a frightening place for a lot of women, because they have to go first, right? They sense it in their bones. There's no outer markers to say this is the way will shape things. It has to be a deeply intuitive sense, and you're almost you are grappling with the dark, and it's a small light, our intuition. Sometimes it only shows us one step. What would you say to a woman who's waking up to her power? She's becoming more present to who she is, and she's not sure how to keep taking those steps towards the dark, in the dark. What would you say to her to reassure her that she's on path?
What I would say is that if you are having an experience where you are being called to navigate your dark journey, your dark night of the soul, then trust that you are meant to be having that experience, and trust that in every step of the way that you will find a friend, you will find a hand, you will find a video or a book that will come to you to support you in that process. We are never alone in our experiences, whether they are of great joy or of deep pain. And what I will say for myself is that I trusted the process, even if it was just one step at a time. And many times it was just one step at a time. I deeply trusted in the process of my life and in spirit, even when I couldn't see a light. There was always someone there, even if it was just one person. There was even if there was just, I opened up a page to a book, there was always that beautiful reflection of spirit and of our connection to spirit that was going, hey, my darling, it's okay, I've got you, and you will never go through this alone. And more importantly than that, you know, I think when we're going through our dark journeys or our deep journeys, there's a good word, we can use the word deep rather than dark, because they are deep.
Love it.
You know, when we're going through these deep journeys of sifting the bread into making us into this wonderful new creation, as it were, birthing ourselves anew, I think we have to just remember that it's very, very easy to get lost when we're looking forward. But if we look back on our lives, and I remember, I think it was Steve Jobs that said this, if you look back on your life, you can see how every single moment was perfect, because it led to the next moment. That led to the next person, to the next understanding or awareness. So, you know, I have always innately, since I was a child, had that embodied understanding of that. But for my beautiful sisters out there that perhaps right now in a very deep process, look back on your life. Were you ever, considering that you're still here and alive, did love not ever show up for you in some shape, way, or form? And I would challenge you to say it always showed up. It always showed up.
How reassuring and supportive that that it's a benevolent universe, right?
Oh my goodness. I always say to people, spirit always works for us.
Yeah.
Not against. Even if we're fighting and we're going, what's happening? We've all been there. You know, because, you know, this journey, the spiritual, living a very deeply embodied spiritual life is not a bells and whistles and it's all amazing. You know, those, you know, those are the beautiful embodied rewards of navigating those deep journeys well, is that you come out of this as a deeply empowered and joy-filled individual who really does sense and feel and connect with the magic and the beauty of life and the sacredness of life. That's this path. Walking the beauty way is walking in balance, knowing that everything is for our growth and for our own calling to awaken to our highest potential and our deepest radiance as women, you know. And you know, for me, this is not an intellectual concept. I live this every single day. And I say that because I'm so grateful. Honestly, Lisa, I'm so grateful for my experiences. I'm so grateful to my son and to my mother, who initiated a huge awakening as well, as I helped her transition into the next world. You know, this is life. This is life where we can actually understand that really there is, in this life that we've chosen to live, nothing is forever. And if we can actually embrace just that very simple concept that everything that we experience in this life is transitory, other than our own expression and experience and connection to the divine, then my goodness, we are really way ahead of an individual who's always trying to grasp on to what is or what could have been.
What an empowered reframe of the way so many humans are living or basing, you know, life, their belief system on the power of the external world, or the power of things, or the power of attachment to the outer conditions of existence, and that's that idea that we navigating things from the inside out, and that relationship that we have with the divine is such a steadfast relationship that will never ever fail us if we allow it to be there. That will be something that I just know will support so many women who are listening to feel a sense of great respite and relief from this idea that they need to do this journey alone. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And oh, darling, and thank you so much, because, you're the one that's initiating and inviting these really potent and powerful conversations with us all. And so, I'm going to acknowledge you in this moment and just say to you, thank you so much. These are the conversations that I love. I just love them. And if we can more and more realize that there is nothing in the outer world, if we can free ourselves from the chains of identification to anything, then we're really coming back into that space of that. Now let's talk about really what awakening is. Let's talk about really what awakening is, when we can really stop identifying and putting our cloaks of identity to how much money, to our status, to our looks, to anything, and realize that it is all the journey back to self. And if anyone has ever assisted anyone dying out there, it is so clear at the end of the day, the most important thing is our love for each other. How much did we love? And how much did we also, because it's a difficult one for most of us, how much did we allow love in to our hearts?
So powerful to ask that question, because I think a lot of women are resisting receiving the support that they have available, and the support that benevolence is so deeply desiring for them as well. That to ask that question, that is such a provocative question, actually, and a confronting one, I'm sure, for many of us, myself included.
Oh, all of us. And as we continue the journey, and those reference points change. So it's like, well, I can accept this much love, but gosh, what would happen, and in my experience, as my heart was breaking, with the loss and the grief around my son and my marriage and everything, it became a choice. Is my heart going to break and then shut down? Or is my heart, am I going to have the courage to keep opening my heart to love, and to keep opening to what this is actually designed to do? And that is to bring me back to myself. For me, that reframe of our challenging and our deep experiences. So let's move away from the word pain. Let's honor that. From these deep journeys, how can we reframe these journeys and to really understand what all of these wonderfully potent journeys are waking up in us, to actually then, gosh, if this is waking this up in me, then what is my gift? What is my offering? How can I offer this beauty? Because I believe that each of us has a unique gift. Just like our DNA blueprint, we have all come in with such a potent, beautiful, divine blueprint as a gift of offering to our world. We just have to find it and get out of our own way. That's all. That's the biggest thing, right? We just have to get out of our own way and our small conditioning from our childhood to schooling to this and that. Can we move beyond that and realize that there is a group of women, there are a group of people, brothers, sisters, that are waking up and going, hey, I want you to shine your brightest light. And in fact, that is what is required of all of us right now. because our world needs empowered people.
Mm.
Because for me, empowered people make choices that are pro-life, that are going to affect life in such positive and extraordinary and uplifting ways, you know. So that's the reality.
That's really pointing towards this this idea that the world can in fact go in two directions, and a lot of people, you know, with a cynical viewpoint would say we're in deep trouble, and yet the groundswell of awakening that we're seeing amongst the feminine rising and amongst human beings, men included, is so very promising towards this shift towards the empowered. But it does require great responsibility to put oneself back in the driver's seat of life and not blame outside conditions for the state of how we operate. So I love that your work takes someone on an inner journey to actually re-empower them to understand that they're at cause in their life. They're at cause for what medicine they bring to any situation, and to what their purpose in life is. And you've been so incredibly generous offering. So your free gift, Beáta, is Living Your Magic ebook, which is 7 key practices that you've distilled into this potent, beautiful free offering. And that's actually we can find that at your website, www.beataalfoldi.com/living-your-magic. And I will make sure that that link is included with the interview as well. You've also been so generous in offering a free a 1 hour one-to-one soul purpose session. You have a beautiful discount offering on your one-on-one sessions, which I would attest to and put my hand up for straight away, to say if anybody would like more of Beáta's magic and support in your life, please do reach out to Beáta at beataalfoldi.com. I just feel we could probably talk for another several hours, as I have with many of the speakers, but I want to thank you so much for taking us into the heart of your work and your wisdom today, Beáta. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, beautiful woman. I'm so honored and so deeply grateful. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.